How you guys doing?
Busy, busy, busy.
So I got somebody's Latin America map that's not got a name on it, and I don't know who it is. Got it right there? Anybody's? Anybody's? Started in the 8th grade, so I'll have to make it something first. Anyone know something that's really scary? I've had people do that on the final exam, and I'm not going to have them again. And if it's one person, it's not that big a deal because I can figure it out through my powers of deduction. If it's two people, I'm kind of up a tree. So what I do in that case is average the 2 grades. Just give everyone the average. Which in the past, that has sometimes been not a big deal, like an 84 to 85, when it comes to a quarter, like it would. And then sometimes I've had a 96 and a 78, which is horrible for the person that has the A, pretty awesome for the person that has the, what is that, a C plus? So don't forget your names, guys. It's like working and not getting a paycheck because you said, nah, I'm good. Anyway, that's it. Fantastic. So we're talking about Europe, specifically getting into region and culture. That's exciting. So basically, this week is your standard week. However, I'm not giving you guys a quiz on Friday. I'm not going to be here. 2, it's the end of the quarter. And I don't like giving quizzes when it's the last day of the quarter because you guys have the option of correcting your quizzes. If I get them on the very last second, I really can't do that. So testing is one thing. Quizzes don't really work that way. So instead, you're going to watch a video. You watch a video on Friday and on Monday and on Tuesday, I think. I know that a lot of you guys are going to be gone because of a combination of retreats and the leadership what happens. And that's okay, that's fine. Whoever's here will deal with it. But Tuesday is the sophomore retreat annual week, so I'm not going to be here for first period. I'll be here for you guys. But, Monday I'm not going to be here either. So, and then after that, Wednesday is testing day, and the rest of it is fall break. So this is just going to be a quick week. So it also means you guys aren't going to have a test for 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh yeah.
Quizzes I can help you guys out with because we'll do a review beforehand. Tests I'm not really sure. That's okay, you guys got also plenty of time. However, what's due tomorrow? Maps. I'm the map. I'm the map.
Don't bring Dora in this.
I watched a lot of Dora this weekend. It is on my mind. Yep, I always thought the map was really narcissistic because the only thing he says is, I'm the map. It's like, I know you are. You say that a lot. He's got the weirdest way of talking, too. He's like, Dora and Boots want to go to this place. Like, who voiced this guy and why is he so squeaky? He's another guy who's like narcissist. I know you're a backpacker. What's you do? You are a backpacker.
You are a backpacker.
Weekly, Adams. Sorry, it's a portal thing. But yeah, but
For the news articles, does it have to be like about the country?
one second, let me tell that to everybody, because I'm sure people are asking. Guys, just to clarify, I've posted this a few times. You guys should all know, most of you do, I think, but those of you don't, whenever you do BBC News articles, it's for the region we're actually studying. So, for instance, the BBC article that's for this week should be about Europe.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
What? Oh, yeah. I wasn't paying attention, I guess. Yeah, it's Europe. The reason I ask got people doing like all over the world, I'm like, it's supposed to be the region, but whatever you did it. So, but yeah, just to clarify. Yeah. Tuesday. Was the quarter ends on Friday or Monday? But the quarter ends on Friday, so I'm counting it for the quarter.
So they're still doing Monday, even though the quarter ends on Friday?
Yes. What she said.
So they're due on Monday.
They're due on Monday, but the quarter ends on Friday, but I'm going to count them for that quarter. More like play-in. Hey, hate the game, don't hate the play.
You said that backwards,
What's the difference? Don't you tell me my business.
Everyone's like, no, it's not the same difference.
Anyways, timeline. Don't, hey. I know you guys are excited to learn, but don't write this. Easy, killer. Easy. You're losing it. You're like, oh, I wasn't writing it. It'll be on YouTube, so be all right.
I never looked at you.
All right. That's your problem, not mine. Right, so this is actually one of my favorite websites when it comes to history. It's called hyperhistorytext.com. It's an excerpt from it. Basically what it is an interactive timeline. What's neat about it is, generally if you see a timeline, you have like one area kind of talking about this happened, that kind of stuff happening in time. But this is actually the timeline of all known history of the world, showing it all what's going on at the same time. So it's really, 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 really vague. But I think it's cool because you can see kind of what all is going on at the same time. For instance, shifting from the Olmec to the Maya civilization while the Goths are rampaging through Europe, the end of the Roman Empire, to what was going on with the shift from the Persian Empire, what was going on in India, the various dynasties in China, all that stuff is going on. It's awesome. But anyways, we're not really too worried about most of that. What I wanted to talk to you guys really briefly about was, in fact, a very, very small, brief, easy, quick primer on European history. Because most people I find, when I'm talking to you about European history, know one time period. You guys recognize that? What is it? Yeah. Yeah, work will set you free. Albrecht Matra. It is the gates to Auschwitz. A concentration camp during the Holocaust. Most everybody knows. You guys could probably tell me all kinds of things about the Holocaust, yeah? But if I ask you guys about who were the Visigoths? What if I were to ask you about the Napoleonic Wars? One thing I found whenever teaching history, and this is an old thing, is that people are fascinated by death and carnage and destruction.
Yes.
Think about it. The times most interesting to talk about are generally wars, slavery, famine, plague, pestilence. I mean, just really terrible times to be alive. In fact, there's an old Chinese curse. If you're cursing someone, you want bad things to happen to them, you tell them, may you live in interesting times. Basically saying, I hope you live during one of the times that's interesting to study in history. I hope you live during the Black Death. I hope you live during the Holocaust. That's pretty harsh when you get right down to it. It's a little bit academic, but it is true. Something about human psychology makes us fascinated by the bad, nasty, and dark side of the human experience. And I think that's somewhat unfortunate. One thing, it's depressing. And two, in the case of the Holocaust, yes, it was a significant event. No arguing that. But it's not the only significant event. In fact, I would argue it's not even the most significant event, much less of all history. It's not the most significant of the 20th century, not by a long shot. But we are fascinated by it. We spend a lot of time studying it, and it kind of gets stuck in our heads. We kind of remember this type of stuff. There's so many other things that led up to the foundation of European civilization that are going to be incredibly important. Because consider this. When we look at the timeline, let's bring it back up just a second. Where is the United States on all this? Right there. This itty bitty tiny bit, just over a couple hundred years old. What about Europe? Well, if we're talking about the ancient Greeks, 1000 BC. Whenever we look at buildings in the United States, we're all been out of shape, but that's a couple hundred years old. Woo! And Italy's like, we got a building that's 2,000 years old, no big deal. It's like, that is a big deal. And you know, the thing with history, there's a lot in it that we don't even think about. For instance, one of my favorite stories is we were doing this project, a World Civ, where this girl was taking a photograph, and I told her, you got to make it look like it was from the Victorian era. And she's like, I know, but I just don't know of any buildings that are Victorian. Like, you're standing. No, really? I'm like, technically it's Robertsonian, which is post-Victorian, but it's close enough. I mean, this building is old by the standards of our experiences. And that's pretty fascinating to write down to. It's all around us. And that's just something that is history. In Europe, you can't help but stumble over history. You know? So it's very much a part of their society. So going really, really fast through European history, we have the ancient Greeks. Of course, the thing with the Greeks that's very different than the Greeks is that Greece wasn't a country. It was a region. All these different Greek city-states made up individual countries. It was just one city as opposed to big empires. But they all were kind of unique. You have the Spartans, you have the Athenians, the Corinthians, all these different folks that had very different cultures from each other because of the physical geography. In fact, there was one city-state, Rome, which eventually established themselves as a massive empire that stretched all throughout Europe, even into the Middle East and Africa. So this big old place. Eventually, it split in half because it was too big. So we had the Western Empire and the Eastern Empire. The West was conquered by the Visigoths, and the other half continued on until it was conquered much later, in the 1400s, by the Ottoman Empire. So this is going to be a whole different spectrum. That's going to greatly influence European history because so much of it was Roman. We took on characteristics of Roman culture and Roman language. There's a reason why so much of Europe was a Romance language. Romance means Romanesque, the Romans, Latin-based. So again, it's going to greatly influence just the language. But after the fall of Rome, during the Dark Ages, basically the Dark Ages refers to the time between the Renaissance and the Roman Empire. Basically, when Rome collapses, culture dies. At least that's what historians say. It's not really true, but that's what they tend to say. And that it was reborn during the Renaissance, so this period between must be the Dark Ages. I prefer the Middle Ages or medieval period. Plenty of. During that time, the Catholic Church became the dominant force. But after the Protestant Reformation, that force kind of started to shatter until later on, whenever after the Enlightenment, basically church power dies out throughout Europe. You start to have the rise of these empires. What culminates into several world wars, starting with the Napoleonic Wars, ending with the First and Second World War, which brings us into the modern era. So the first real modern wars are usually considered the Napoleonic Wars. And the reason behind that is the technology that starts getting introduced. Now, in America, we would say the Civil War, but that is kind of later, and you can kind of argue that we're not going to bother. So basically, first modern war is Napoleonic. And then we start getting into the First and the Second World War, which is between empires, which breaks the entire foundation of the earth, crumbling down at the end with colonies and things like that, which brings us to the modern era. Okay, that was the entirety of European history in about 5 minutes. The basis for that is what's going to lead us into this other questions and things like that. But understand that that's just kind of the gist of it. Next year we'll go into a lot more detail. Anyways, traditionally though, this area has been agricultural, but it was also the first to industrialize. That's an important concept, industrialization. Because basically what it means is the use of machines to increase productivity. Essentially, a machine can do something a lot faster and easier than a human can, right? Power tools make life a heck of a lot easier. Fact is, how many guys have ever used a hammer before? What's easier, using a hammer or using a nail gun?
I've never used it.
It's pretty awesome. There's different kinds of nail guns, but you know, even your basic ones make jobs a lot easier. In fact, it's funny. My in-laws' house is a manufactured home that was made by Amish. Because apparently Amish can work for someone who owns power tools and use the power tools, they just can't own power tools or something. Anyhow, it was funny because I think they like to use it just a little too much. Because when I helped my father-in-law, we were taking down drywall. And normally whenever you have drywall hung up, it's, you know, there's a screw or a nail like every 6 inches. I mean, that's not a hard and fast rule, just sort of things. Yeah, we were finding like 6 or 7 in every 6 inches. It's just like, it's just like, dude, really? It's like, you know, one thing, it's like, maybe they just wanted to stay it up. I was like, I think they just like to play with a nail gun. This is fun. But anyway. But what the important thing with industrialization is, a machine can do things faster than a person. It can also do it much more efficiently. Meaning, there's not as much waste. Have you guys ever watched the show How It's Made? But it's pretty crazy to see like how perfect everything lines up. It's like things that you really couldn't do. And so that means that things are generally better quality. Now, the interesting thing about this is that we tend to think of things manufactured versus things made by hand as being of inferior quality. But really that has less to do with the manufacturing process and more to do with the materials, let's be honest. Because what tends to happen is you want to minimize costs so you can lower the price so you can sell more product. It makes sense, it's business. But the problem is that if you use inferior quality, things break easier and you have less quality, you know. However, that's not a byproduct of manufacturing. I mean, if you guys have ever seen a car from the 1950s, the engines are basically, they continuously run. Yeah, you have to work on things like that, but it's actually pretty simple. That's because during that period, folks tend to make things with better quality products, not quite so much anymore, but anyways, that's getting off topic a bit. But industrialization means you can produce more of a product better, more efficiently. That means we can charge less for it and still make a profit. So that means more people can afford it, which basically stimulates the economy. Everyone can afford things. Great example of that, cars. You know, Henry Ford did not invent the car. The one thing he did was he was the first to industrialize it, which made it affordable for everybody. That's what made cars mainstream. People could afford them, they started using them. It was cheaper. The thing is, we could see this happening across the board through technology. How much does an iPad cost nowadays? $100, yeah. How much does a tablet cost? It depends. There's one for $80. it's a Lenovo, which is known for the best quality, but you can buy it for that. How much were iPods when they first came out? You know? About $600. How much are they now?
Like 80, 90.
It depends. Why were they that expensive? Because they were brand new. Things that are new are expensive. As they go on, they get cheaper. You can get a computer now for a couple $100. I remember my first computer was $1,000 in the 1980s.
It's probably like huge too,
It wasn't that big, but it was big. The monitor was this
but like
big.
the huge box one.
Yeah. CRTVs. And it had a disk drive, a diskette, and the disks were this big.
Was it dial-up?
This was before there was internet. There was no modem. Now eventually the modem did exist, and I actually remember downloading a game with my brother on our 126K modem, and we had to download it for 32 hours, and we did it because we were bored. But you know, this is just kind of how technology has changed. And guys, this wasn't that long ago. Consider this: 50 years ago, how did people listen to music? They did listen to the radio. That's true. That's way before then. 50 years ago, we're talking about records. Yeah. Think about trying to describe to someone from then how we listen to music. Well, I've got this device that lets me get music from the air, and I listen to it in speakers that go in my ears. Think about how crazy sci-fi that would sound. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We gave up on trying to explain that to my grandpa. We just call it magic.
The funny thing is, guys, in 50 years, technology is going to be the same way for you. That's just how it goes. The speed of technology is incredible. The first cars that are widespread, where people are actually starting to use cars, the Model T, we're talking the early 1900s. 50 years later, we've got a guy on the moon. Think about where we're going to be in 50 years. This is, by the way, an area study called futurology. People try to think about this stuff. The thing that's really mind-boggling is how 3D printers could change everything. We're talking about the democratization of production. Think about this. You don't need factories with 3D printers. Now we do, because there's still such a new technology. But as they get better and there's more improvements, as we add more materials you can work with, hypothetically, you can have a 3D printer that can print anything. You can print a car. They already did. They did it in Chicago last week, and it worked. Yeah, they printed a car. Yeah. It's only 2-seater. It's electric. It goes like 40 miles, or I think it's 40 miles per hour, so it's not exactly that fast. But again, this is an early technology. As things improve, they're 3D printing parts to houses now using concrete 3D printers. They're looking at 3D printing hearts using biomass. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff you could 3D print. And just think about that. You wouldn't need to go to a store. You go online shopping for the pattern you want, download it, you pay for it, you print your materials. You don't need factories anymore. That will drive costs way down for stuff. I mean, right now we can't do it. Well, we might hypothetically in 50, 60 years be able to print an iPod. Just print, and there it is. Yeah, online shop, there's no shipping. It's just right there. Yes, you still have to buy things, and yes, there'll still be an economy, but it dramatically shifts industrialization. Now, of course, this means people working at factories are now out of a job. But that's the kind of weird catch-22 with industrialization. Usually, another job takes its place. In the case of farming, when industrialization came out, people lost their jobs in farms, they started working in factories. When factories started using robots, people had to shift to go to service industries. It just drives to the next piece of technology. And futurists are kind of debating on what that's going to be in the future. We don't know at the minute, but it's an interesting question, if nothing else. Sorry, you had a question.
So it's like a real, like, working car that we
Yeah. There's videos on it.
That's
You wouldn't want to drive it. Like I said, it's still early tech, but the thing is, once you prove you can do something, it makes it easier to do it. People will improve it and make it better. I'm talking 50 years from now. Think about it. You guys are what, 14, 15? You're going to be 64, 65. I'll be dead, probably.
You never know.
That's probably. Actually, knowing medical tech, I'll probably still be alive. I appreciate it. Oh no, futurologists have asked all these other kind of zany questions, like, okay, so the death of the body occurs because your organs wear out, things like that. Print a new one, live forever. What? Don't get me wrong. They've been talking about that crap for centuries. Frankenstein was that story, basically. But it's one of those things that like makes us like, really?
It's like, you'd be kind of tempted to do it, but it's just unnatural.
But Oak Expressive. Waka waka. Like I said, there's all these questions. But the thing is, guys, these things you're pondering, the weirdness of it, things like that, that's what your grandparents have to deal with. The world is new and different and scary and weird. That's just life as you get older. So just, all I'm saying is whenever your grandparents say something that's like, that's so dumb, throw them some slack, you know, because we all have to go through it. Yeah.
So what does the printer look like?
You want to print a car?
Like just generally, yeah, what does it look like?
We have 2 of them downstairs. We have 3D printers, you know that, right?
Yeah, they made those little towers.
Yeah, you make the little plastic doodads. Like I said, that's early tech. It only uses plastic as a medium. But there are other types of 3D printers that use other types of materials. Already, they're talking about making ones that can use all. Put in perspective, old dot matrix printers that can only print one color to being able to use like inkjet, laser jet, multiple colors, things like that, photoreal, that sort of thing. It's an interesting question. But regardless, that same change, that way that people's lives change, are changing this way. People are getting introduced into all kinds of new fields to where nowadays most folks are in a high-tech industry. There are things like service industries, things like providing cell phone service and stuff like that. Reliably, it most frequently relies on nuclear energy, which again, nuclear energy is kind of a scary question because of what happens when it goes wrong, i.e. Fukushima. But most of the time it doesn't. And when it does it, it's actually hugely efficient. It's just a question of, you know, it can be scary too. So they rely heavily on it and it works pretty well. One thing though I will say in terms of the economic production of this region, it's very well known for its luxury goods. For instance, if I say Switzerland, what do you think about? Chocolate, right? Swiss chocolate. Cheese is another one. One thing that they're also really well known for is clocks. Swiss clockmaking works. That watch right there, I believe, is something like 30 grand.
Well, it's pretty
Yeah.
though.
Now you can't definitely buy cheaper Swiss watches than that. I've got one that's like $10. But they're particularly well known for it. Now this in particular is different because a lot of watches are driven by quartz. This is actually run by clockwork. You actually have to wind it to make it function. And another major thing is actually cars. Like if you think of an expensive car, odds are good it's European. Lamborghini, Ferrari, Bentley, Rolls-Royce, Porsche, etc., etc. All those are European car manufacturers. Interestingly enough, even cars like Audi and Volkswagen, European vehicles, yeah. By the way, you guys know that Hitler actually started Volkswagen? True story, bro. Yeah, there is a car that like that, but not all Volkswagens do that, obviously. No, Volkswagen is known for its efficiency and its quality engineering. However, they've gotten worse over the years, let me put it that way. But I digress. So this region is known for this type of thing. And culturally speaking, It's pretty urban. Most people live in cities. In fact, space is something that is very highly prized. It's very expensive because of that. Put into perspective, have you guys ever watched the show House Hunters International?
Yes.
Yeah, that show like always drives me crazy because like you'll have like somebody walk in like in the lawn or something like that into like a condo that's like this big, as big as this room, is just partitioned out. So you got like a bedroom over here, and this is the living room / kitchenette. And you got a bathroom over here. And like, how much does this house cost? Like, well, this runs about 1.2 million. They're like, oh, that's a good price. I'm like, you're insane! Why would you live there? It's like, oh, it's got a nice view of the beach. It's like 10 miles that way. I can see it. Yeah, because again, there's a high demand for the product, so the price, and a small supply, so the price goes up accordingly. This is one of the reasons why city life is incredibly expensive, and homes tend to be much smaller when you see it. Not to say that they're like, all like this size, that's really more urban, but they are smaller in terms of size. So what happens is people, whenever they entertain, tend to not do so at home so much, they go out. They'll use public spaces, parks, pubs, things like that, to entertain guests and hang out with folks. The same thing applies to cars as well. They are much smaller by comparison. You guys have probably seen the Fiats around. That's an example. The Mini Cooper is an example. They're not all that small, but they are small by comparison, because again, gas prices also being as high as they are. Now, one thing that's interesting, their crime rate is lower than, say, the United States, places like that, particularly violent crimes. They do actually have higher orders of burglary than we do. But again, they also, a lot of places in Europe, it's illegal to own firearms. So that's, anything you say it's been done to see if that's an effect either way, it tends to come back rather inconclusive. But it is kind of an interesting hot button question. And one thing I will say is that they definitely have a different viewpoint. They tend to be much more liberal, sort of like Canada, than what the United States is. As far as art, though, and music, if I probably say like European music, what do you guys think about it?
Ed Sheeran.
What?
Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran.
Yeah.
Well done, then. Because most folks out there say they're off of classical music, like Wolfgang Mozart, Beethoven.
Definitely not.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, some folks say Beatles. That's absolutely true. Those famous bands there. One Direction was a big thing. There's the big thing, okay. But again, it's, ABBA was a famous band in that region. I mean, pretty much any genre of music is there as well. And there's some pretty stereotypical songs from that area that, again, are pretty famous because of their contributions, but still going on now. What's really cool is with the powers of the internet, you guys can experience music from Europe faster than anyone ever has before. It's a constant flow, actually all over the world now. So there's this give and take. Not to mention, more and more people are becoming aware of international communication networks. Like, I always thought it was interesting when BBC was starting to be broadcast regularly in cable TV. Then Al Jazeera was added as well. I mean, you're going to start seeing more and more news channels available because why not? And that means that we have a way of communicating in a way that's never been possible. But also, they do have this rich history. Like I said, it's hard to not walk through a European city without stumbling over some kind of history. My parents went to Florence and also to Venice. They were telling me that it's sort of like if you've ever been downtown, you walk and you see like graffiti on the wall. They have the same thing, but it's like a Renaissance master's painting, like Leonardo da Vinci, Raphael, all these other guys, and other Ninja Turtles as well. All this stuff is just a common sight there. It's just like it's mind-boggling. It's why people tend to go there in terms of tourism. The other thing is, though, they have a very different viewpoint in terms of leisure activities. For instance, in the United States, the average person gets how many weeks vacation? 2. How many weeks vacation is the average American get? 2. How many days of that do they usually use? About 2. Most Americans do not take vacation, even when they're granted, because we look down on people for taking vacation days. Seriously. Talk to somebody whenever their coworkers all take vacation. They're not happy. We also tend to look at people as being like, lazy. It's like, oh man, you're always out. It's like, well, yeah, I'll have to take those days. It's my vacation time. It's part of the day. And yet we have this attitude, again, we have a very high work ethic. Europe, not so much. Not to say they're lazy there, but they're going to take their vacation time. In fact, in some places, it's the law that if you don't take your vacation days by the end of the year, they force you. They won't let you in the building until you've used all your vacation time. Well, that's just their culture. Now, trust me, no one has to do that. Everyone takes their vacation. But by the way, how much vacation do Europeans get? Between 4 and 6 weeks. In addition, in France, the average work week is only 30 hours, not 40. Now, you might be able to say, well, that's why America has the best economy in the world, and you're partially right. But the problem that we're looking at now is, are there more people wanting jobs than there are jobs? I don't know. This is a question that, again, futurologists are debating because, again, with industrialization and the adaptation of new technology, there's going to be less jobs. Now, again, traditionally, other jobs open up in the market, there's other jobs available, but that doesn't always happen. It might not happen. So there's this question of what happens, and there's a possibility we do what Europeans do. Basically, people make the same amount of money, they work less hours. Basically, everyone gets a raise. Now, again, there's problems with that, but it's a fascinating question because if we go down to 30-hour work weeks, how's that going to affect schools? Things like that. It's really kind of an interesting question. Yeah.
Why don't they change like the work shift? And like, do this person work this day, and then this person work this day, and alternate?
Some places do that. Ford does that actually. This is GE. Exactly. And actually, one of the things we're talking about doing is something like that. There's all kinds of theories as to how we can increase that. The big problem is that going to mean people are not going to buy stuff? Is that going to tank the economy? And if done properly, it doesn't have to. In fact, the original plan of doing that was from the Scotsman during the Industrial Revolution. So there is tradition for that. It's just you got to implement it correctly. But the other thing is shifting away from you work during the day, you go home at night. Because we don't have to do that. I mean, think about what if we did it this way in terms of school. Like instead of everyone goes to school during the morning, there's a first and a second and a third shift. Basically 9 to 5, and then 5 to 1 o'clock in the morning, 1 to 9. That's your shift. So you got some folks be going to school 1 to 9 in the morning. Think about that. You could cut the number of actual school buildings by a third. Actually, by 2/3. You don't need a building. It'd be open all day long, all evening long. But basically, you do the shifts just like factories do. Trust me, no one wants to do that because how would you work sports into that? So you have like 3 football teams per school? I don't know. You could hypothetically. But it's a weird question. But the thing is, you can hypothetically do it. These are the types of questions not applied to school, not people that businesses have to ponder as they start looking at some of these issues. That's it today, guys.